Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Poking Around Phoenixville. Thanks for tuning in. We're glad to have you with us once again. I'm Lou Beccaria, your host. I'm delighted to bring you today's show, as I am every show that we do here on Phantom TV. But today's show has some extra special meaning for me personally, because I get to interview a Major League Baseball star against whom I batted over 40 years ago after his illustrious professional career was concluded. We'll fill you in on the details of this in just a minute. To give you a few hints about my guest, his initials are BS. He grew up in Pottstown, and while short in physical stature, he pitched for many years with a very big heart, and very successfully, I might add. Yes, my guest is none other than Bobby Shantz, the ace lefty pitcher best known for his years with the Philadelphia Athletics. And with him today is his friend, lifelong friend and Phoenixville resident, Jim Voycsik. Jim and Bobby played several years together in the minor leagues, and we're glad to have both of you here. Bobby?
Thank you.
Jim?
Thanks.
Thanks for being here.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Bobby, let's start off with you. When did you sign your first pro contract?
I signed my first contract with Harry O'Donnell of the Athletics in 1948. They sent me to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Was that right out of high school?
No, that was a couple years after I got out of high school. I was playing on the sandlots in Holmesburg.
Okay.
Right outside of.
So you were discovered kind of playing semi-pro ball?
Yeah, I was playing. Well, actually, it wasn't even semi-pro ball. I was playing semi-pro ball with Soderton in the East Penn League on the side. No, that's on the weekends. But I was in the Pendel League during the week. And that was in the Philadelphia area. Now,
what was it that caught their eye about you so that they wanted to sign you to a pro contract?
It wasn't my size, I'll tell you that. No, but Jocko Collins from the Phillies actually scouted me when I was pitching in the Pendel League, but he told me I was too small. He said I had a good curveball, good enough probably to pitch in the big leagues, but I was just too small. And of course, I knew that anyway. I was only about 5'2" then, or maybe I wasn't even that big, but then that winter, Harry O'Donnell came over from the Philadelphia Athletics to my house, and he asked me if I was interested in going away and playing baseball. And I really didn't want to go because I had a pretty good job making 73 cents an hour in a distant sawmill, and I kind of hated to quit
73 cents an hour?
That's what I was making. Yeah, I was making about $100 a week. But my dad talked me into going, so that's what I did. I signed that contract that winter with Harry O'Donnell, and I went away to Lincoln, Nebraska in a Class A Western League.
Now, you must have been making more than 73 cents an hour when you played. What did you sign for, if you don't mind my asking?
I signed for $300 a month.
Wow.
And that was a lot of money in those days.
Those days, yeah.
That was a lot of money. And he said, but he asked me how much I wanted to make. I said, well, I thought I ought to make as much as I was making when I was working anyway. So he said, well, if you're going to make $300 a month, you're going to have to either pitch in Savannah or Lincoln, Nebraska, which was the two Class A leagues they had.
So you started out at Class A. Back then, they went all the way down to Class D,
I know,
right?
yeah. They had all the way down to Class D, C, B, right up to AAA. So he made me go to AAA ball. He asked me if I wanted to go to Lincoln or I want to go to Savannah. I picked Lincoln for I've never been out of Ambler, so I didn't know how far it was, you know. so I ended up in Lincoln, Nebraska, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah.
Okay, so you went to Lincoln, Nebraska, and tell me, what was it like going out? Did you fly out? Did you go out by train?
No.
Anticipating your very first time in the major leagues?
No, I drove out. Me and my brother. My brother also was. Had spring training in Federalsburg, Maryland, and they decided to send us to Lincoln, Nebraska, which he asked me if I wanted to go, and I said yeah. So we both started driving, and like I said, I didn't really realize how big the country was, because when we were driving all day and we got to Pittsburgh, and we stopped in a diner there, and I asked the lady how far it was to Lincoln. She says, Lincoln where? I said, Lincoln, Nebraska. And she had to go back and get the chef. She brought the chef out. He asked me where I was going. I said, I'm trying to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. He said, well, you got about 2 more days. I said, oh, my goodness. I didn't realize how far that was.
You realized the country was that big, right?
It was really big. I'll tell you, we drove and drove. We finally got there.
Jim, let's turn to you. In Lincoln, Nebraska, is that where you two guys hooked up for the first time?
Yeah, I was in Class C ball, and a catcher got hurt in Savannah, so they had need a backup catcher to go to Lincoln. So I went to Lincoln, and I met the team in Des Moines, Iowa, and I asked a couple of the players on the team, "Where's Shantz at?" There he is out in the outfield. So then Bobby came in, and I told him I was from Phoenixville, and I said, "From Pottstown, yeah." And so we got to get, we were buddied up, and we used to travel around together all through Lincoln.
So you were kind of battery mates.
Right,
And
yeah.
wound up being kind of lifelong friends.
Right.
As a result of
Right.
that. So, okay, now you're in Lincoln, Nebraska. Did you kind of travel together to other minor league teams, or were you kind of sent together? Or?
No, we were only together in Lincoln.
Okay.
Lincoln. Then I went to Savannah, and then Bob, I think, went to the big leagues later on after that. But like I say, when the coach, manager Sean come up to me and says, I was going to catch Shantz in a doubleheader in Des Moines, and it was a 7-inning ball game, and Bobby did. I said this once before and again. And an umpire raised his hand 17 times. Every other pitch was a strike, and his best pitch was his knuckleball. He loved to throw the knuckleball, and I'd go 1-2, but he wanted to throw that knuckleball, and they wouldn't allow him to throw it in the big leagues. They wouldn't let him to do that because it was hard on his arm.
Is that correct, Bob?
That's what Mr. Mack said. Yeah, he didn't want me to throw the knuckleball, but I threw it anyway. He didn't know what I was throwing most of the time, because he was 82 years old. You know? He didn't know what I was throwing anyway, so I threw it most of the time.
What were your stock pitches?
My best pitch was a curveball. I had a pretty good curveball, and I changed speeds on it. But I had a decent knuckleball, but it wasn't. I didn't know where it was going half the time. You know, I only throw it when I got ahead of the hitter. If I get 2 strikes on a guy, I'd throw it. But I threw it pretty hard. Threw it a little bit harder than an actual knuckleball, because although I didn't have good control, but I was around the plate with it, but I didn't get it over the plate most of the time. But I got a lot of guys out with it because I had 2 strikes on them, and if I was near the plate, they'd swing at it a lot of times. But it was one of my better pitches. But they wouldn't let me throw it in minor league, or when I first come up with Mr. Mack, he didn't want me to throw it.
Is the knuckleball a lot harder on your arm than a curveball?
I don't think it is. I don't think it's hard on your arm at all. Because look at Wilhelm and those guys. Some of those guys that threw them knuckleball, they were still pitching when they were 45 years old.
Yeah, they made a living on it.
Yeah, they could throw it good too.
What was your when your fastball? What was the top speed when you were really going strong?
I don't know. We never had no.
You never had any
We
guns?
had no idea how fast we were throwing those days.
Oh, really?
We didn't have those guns like they have today. I would guess maybe I threw about 85, 86 mile an hour maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
But, you know, and I changed speeds. To get them out, I had to change speeds because I couldn't throw the ball by them, and I had pretty good control. I did have decent control, so yeah, as long as I stayed around the plate, I was all right.
Yeah. Who was the? You talk about changing speeds. Obviously, there's a real challenge going on between you and the hitters. I know when I faced you that one time, it was a real challenge.
I probably threw you a curveball.
You did. And that's why I'm doing this and never played baseball, professional baseball. Couldn't hit the curveball. Who was the toughest player that you ever played against in the major leagues, Bobby, in terms of hitter?
Toughest hitter?
The toughest hitter.
The toughest left-handed hitter was Ted Williams. I'd say that I had a lot of tough hitters, but the guy that hurt me the most was Roy Sievers, a guy that not too many guys heard of. Yeah, but he was really
outfielder
tough.
with the Senators.
He was really tough for me to get out. I don't know why, but I tried everything. Mantle was tough. I couldn't get him out either. He was tough too. But I had a lot of guys that really hurt me.
Who was we would call it the toughest competitor, the meanest guy that you played against? In the modern era, they say that Gibson, the pitcher, Gibson was a tough.
As far as pitching?
Yeah.
Early win. I always thought he was. When you hit against him, I always thought he was going to hit me right there.
Really?
Because that's the way he looked. But he was. I met him years later in old timers games, and he was really a nice guy. I didn't realize it, but to bat against the guy, he looked like he was going to knock you down every time he threw the ball. And Gibson was like that too. I hit against Gibson quite a few times, and he was tough too. If you get a hit off of him, he didn't like that. Next time up, boy, you better be careful because he'd knock you down. He was mean.
Did you enjoy hitting as a pitcher?
Yeah, I loved to hit. Yeah.
Were you a left-handed batter or right-handed?
Right-handed. Right-handed hitter. Yeah, I hit 1 home run off Allie Reynolds.
Did you really?
Yeah, in Yankee Stadium. Yeah, and he never forgot that. Yeah, after I was done and he was done, we used to go to these all-star or all-timers games, and And he'd always come over to me and he'd say, "Boy, you were a good hitter." I said, "Yeah, I know why you're saying that. That's the only home run I ever hit." So he was a good guy.
It must be a great feeling, though.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. I appreciated him saying that, but I wasn't that good a hitter, but I got my hits, but I really wasn't a real good hitter.
Jim, let's go back to you. You've told me about something called the wing-ding game here in Phoenixville at the Sino Field. Could you tell us about that?
The wing-ding game was at the end of the All-Star play. The coaches used to play the All-Star team, and Bobby used to come up all the time, and that's when his playing days was over. But he really enjoyed it. A lot of these guys go up there and they tried to hit that old knuckle, the curveball, knuckleball.
That dinky curve.
And Doc Kennedy tried to handle Bobby, and he never did that. But he did a fairly good job. But it was a good day. We really enjoyed that. We did it for years, and then we stopped it after a bit.
Yeah. I want to ask both of you guys this question. What was it like in the minor leagues in the 40s and 50s? And what, by that I mean like the conditions, the nature of baseball at the time. What was it like back then? Jim, we'll start with you and then Bob.
Well, you get $3 of meal money. So we never ate breakfast or lunch. We always saved the money for our big meal. That was it. And the playing, there's a lot of guys that we played again ended up in the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
There were some couple guys that were good ball players that ended up in the big leagues.
I guess it takes a lot of self-confidence in order to make it, because it's although it may seem like glory, a lot of glory to the average person like myself, mm-hmm. behind the scenes, what is it like behind the scenes and the pressure and the competition that you have to deal with in order to make it to the big leagues?
I never thought the minor leagues was that bad. When you're playing on the sandlots, it's a little bit better than playing on the sandlots, where you get a lot of bus rides and a lot of train rides, and the meal, like Jim said, the meal money's not too good. But man, you're playing baseball. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing. I just enjoyed playing ball. I didn't care how bad it was, how bad the times were. Now, we started out in A ball. We didn't have to go down to D, C, B. We started right out in A ball. I did. I don't know if Jim did or not. But
no, I started in C.
I was really lucky. I went right to Class A ball, and then from Class A ball right to the big leagues. And I was one of the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm.
I just got I'd be at the right time at the right place at the right time. I was very lucky.
But one story that is, like I said earlier, that when Bobby, we used to pitch, no matter where we were, if the press released it, you couldn't get to the ballpark, especially in Lincoln. The left field line, the right field line, they would close it down. That was it.
Why do you think you were so popular, Bobby?
Because I was little. I think. Well, I was winning a few games too, but mm-hmm. I think that's why.
So they wanted to see.
The people in Lincoln, especially in Nebraska, the people were so nice there.
They won 14-0.
Isn't that where Richie Ashburn was from too?
He was from Tilden,
Tilden.
Just about 100 miles north of Lincoln.
14-0 when I got there, he couldn't win a ball game. 14-0. That's why.
Wow.
I mean, anyways, Des Moines, Sioux City, Denver, Pueblo. They
drew pretty good at most of those ballparks out there. It was a good league, darn good league. Yeah, it was a good league.
Okay,
and we had a good ball club too.
We're going to come back to that in just a second, but we have to pay the bills and hear from our
okay.
Hear from our sponsor. So stay with us. We're going to be right back, and we're going to talk some more with Bobby Shantz and Jim Voycsik about baseball. Hi, welcome back to Poking Around Phoenixville. I'm Lou Beccaria, your host, and we have the pleasure today to be talking with Bobby Shantz, the ace pitcher of the Philadelphia Athletics, and Jim Voycsik, his friend from Phoenixville, and also they both played baseball together in the minor leagues. So Bobby, let me turn to you first. We left off about your time in the minor leagues and playing in Lincoln. Let's graduate into the major leagues. When did you first make it to the major leagues? And I'd like to ask you, when you were standing on the mound for the very first time, before your very first pitch in the major leagues, what was going through your mind? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What was the feeling?
Yeah, I was scared to death. But that was in 1949. I spent 1 year in the minor leagues, and then I came right to the big leagues.
That's really unusual.
Yeah, really. Well, they had a couple pitchers that were having trouble with their arms, and I think that's the only reason they kept me there. With the exception of the first game, when they sent me out, actually. to Buffalo, and I never got to Buffalo. They recalled me before I got there, so I ended up going to Detroit.
I see.
And I got in the first game I got into was a relief job, relief Carl Scheib in the 3rd inning, and I pitched till the 13th inning, and I didn't give him a hit. I was so nervous.
Holy cow.
My foot was just shaking on that. I was really nervous too after I got going a little bit. But
did you say to yourself, "I can't believe I'm
yeah,
here"?
I can't believe. That's what I said. I said to myself, I don't know what I'm doing here, but man, I kept getting them out. How I got them out, I don't know, but I got them out somehow. I was a little wild. I walked about 4 or 5 guys, and I think I struck out about 9. And they had a good team. They had Harvey Keene and Al Kaline and George Kell. You know, and I pitched against Newhouser, and our guys knocked Newhouser out there finally, and we ended up winning that ball game in the 13th inning. Wally Moses hit a 3-run homer, and we ended up beating them for 5-4, 5-3, or whatever, something like that. Now, I think that's what kept me in the big leagues, actually, you know, because I didn't really have a good record that first year. I was 6-8, which wasn't great, but for me, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, if you're only been in pro ball a year.
That's I really enjoyed it.
Who was the first batter that you faced in the major leagues?
Oh, it was a rookie. It was a rookie first baseman. I don't remember. His left-hander. Of course, they brought me in to pitch to a left-hander. I can't remember the guy. They had just given him a big bonus, but I got him out, and I got out of the inning, and they didn't score on me till the 13th inning. I had pitched 10 scoreless innings or hitless innings, and I did give up. I think I gave up a run and 1 or 2 hits in the 13th inning. Although we still won the ball game, 5-3 or something.
Now
like
that in itself is amazing, because relief pitchers today don't pitch 10 innings
I know.
coming
The
in
starting
relief.
pitchers don't either. They throw 100 pitches, they get out of there.
That brings up a good question about the pitch count kind of a thing.
God.
When both of you guys were playing, did they worry about pitch counts and so forth?
No, we didn't have
now
such
it seems
a
to
thing.
be an obsession almost.
I know it. We had
Why
no
is
such
that?
thing. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why I was only 5'6.5", and I had 27 complete games.
Wow.
Can you believe that? I won 24 games in 1952 and had 27 complete games.
Wow.
And I'm only 5'6.5", I guess I was at that time, and I weighed about 135, 139 pounds. And these guys today, they're all over 6 foot, 6'4", 6'3", and all you got to do is throw 100 pitches and you're out of there. That's pretty good. I might still be pitching about
Your job was just to get them out. They don't care what you did. You know what I mean? You didn't ever have no pitch count.
So as a catcher, you weren't concerned about how many pitches the guy was pitching?
Get him out.
Get
Him out. That's all you wanted to do was get him out.
That's right.
Tell me about some of the managers that you played with and against. You know, some of the famous managers in your era were Casey Stengel and Connie Mack.
Yeah,
what were they like?
Well, Connie Mack, of course, was 82 years old when I came to big leagues. That was 1949. I only played for Connie at 49 and 50, and then Jimmy Dykes took over. But Mr. Mack, he was very quiet, never said much. You know, he was really too old to be managing. And his son Earl Mack was sitting aside of him, giving the signs to the first base coach all the time, but he never got in there in time, half the time, so we just more or less were on our own. If we had a bunt, we thought we had a bunt, we'd bunt, because Mr. Mack was out of it, because he was just too old to be
He was the owner at the same time.
Yeah, he was
wasn't
also the owner, so and nobody could fire him. So then the next guy I played for was Jimmy Dykes. He took over. When Jimmy took over, I seemed to come around pretty good. I won 18 ball games in 51 for Jimmy, and he let me throw my knuckleball. He didn't give a darn what I threw, as long as I got him out, you know. And then, of course, I had won 24 games the following year, and then I got hit with I was going for my 25th win against Washington near the end of the season. I had about 3 more weeks to go, and I got hit with a ball. Walt Masterson threw one at my head. I tried to get out of the way of it and broke 2 bones in my wrist. So that was the end of my season that year. And then the following, we went. Then I went to the Yankees, and then Casey Stengel was the manager there. Everybody knew how Casey was. He was if he had the ball players, he could win. He had some good ball players with the Yankees. He was really of course, you see, when he went to the Mets, he couldn't win any because he didn't have any ball players. He didn't win any games at all there. But when he was with the Yankees, he won because he had that great teams. He had some real good teams up there. And then I went to Pittsburgh with Danny Murtaugh. He was very good manager. Huh?
Philadelphia guy from Philadelphia area,
yeah,
Chester,
from
Pennsylvania.
Chester, yeah. Very nice man and a good manager. Then I went to Houston for Harry Kraft was there, and then Lou Boudreau, he was my next manager, and Johnny Keane with the Cardinals, Bob Kennedy with the Cubs, and Gene Mock with the Phillies. That was my managers. They were all good managers. I thought they were all very good managers.
Was it extra special playing for your hometown team toward the end of your career?
Yeah, it was. I was glad to be there because they were. That's when we blew the pennant in 1964, and I was only there a very short time. I only was there long enough to get in 14 games.
Yeah.
But they blew the pennant, and lost the pennant.
What was it like being? I mean, as a fan, we hear about this all the time. It's one of those famous things that you never forget about how the Phillies blew it in 1964. Yeah. But being a part of that team, going through that, what was it like?
Well, it wasn't so bad for me because I was only there a short time, but it must have really killed those guys that were there all year. And, they really had a good shot at winning that thing because they were...
Why did Gene Mock go with bunting and short every other game?
I don't know. Well, he didn't do that. He did it with 2 days rest with bunting and short in Houston, and they lost both those games, which really killed us. That really hurt. But I don't know why he did that because we had Mahaffey and Ray Culp. We had 2 guys he could have started there. Mm-hmm. But for some reason he didn't want to do it. I don't know why, but I don't know. We were just players. We just did what we were told. So I don't know really what happened there.
How many years did you spend in the major leagues, Bobby?
16.
16. That's an amazing time.
Yeah.
For a guy that they thought was too short to make it.
Yeah, I enjoyed every minute of it too.
Why do the major leagues and the scouts put so much emphasis on height, by the way, and stature, physical stature?
I don't know. I don't know why they do that. I really don't. I don't know why they have to have big guy. Well, Mr. Mack was like that. I was very surprised that he ever let me come up to the big leagues because he liked big guys. And a lot of the scouts, for some reason, they like the big guys. I don't know why. I really don't understand that.
I understand that you were a pretty good fielding pitcher as well, which is very important. How many Golden Gloves did you win?
Well, I had been in the big leagues 7 years, and then they started, in 1957, they started giving the Gold Glove to the best fielding pitcher and catcher and shortstop each year, and I got it the first 8 years that I was in the big leagues.
8 times, no kidding.
Yeah, I got it in 57, 58, 59, and 60 in the American League. Then I went to the National League, and I got it 4 years there, too.
Right.
I got it every year that I played that they had it, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is really incredible.
I had to get it. I got killed a few times out there on that mound, I'll tell you that. Those line drives go by there awfully fast.
Tell us about the World Series. Did you have an opportunity to play in a World Series?
Yeah, I was in 3 World Series, 1957, 1958, and 1960. We lost the first one in 1957 to the Braves. Burdette beat us 3 times that year. I started the second game of the World Series. Got beat against Burdette. He beat me 4-2. And then 58, we won the World Series against the Braves in 7 games. And in 1960, we played against the Pirates, and Mazeroski hit that home run to beat us. We scored 63 runs in that series and lost it, and that's pretty hard to believe, but yeah. I can't believe we lost that series yet, but we did. But that was Mazeroski hit that home run off of Ralph Terry in the 9th inning to beat us. That was really a fun time.
That's probably one of the ultimate things in sports, is to be a New York Yankee in the World Series and winning the World Series as a New York Yankee.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it's only on one World Series champion. That was 1958, but that was really nice. I like to do that all over again.
What's your fondest memories, Bobby, of baseball, your baseball career? Does anything stand out as being particularly...
Well, I think the thing that stands out most in my mind was being picked the most valuable player in the American League in 1952. And also, everybody asked me what was the best game I ever pitched. I was pitching against the Yankees this time. I was pitching for the Athletics in Yankee Stadium, and I pitched a 14-inning game. Pitched the whole 14 innings. We beat them 2-1. And that's the best game I ever pitched in my life.
You pitched for 14 innings?
I pitched the whole game, yeah. That was one of the 27 complete games. Yeah. No, we didn't have, in those days, we didn't have the good relief pitching. Like today they have them all specialty guys. We didn't have that kind of stuff.
And the interesting part about it is you probably didn't have all this fancy conditioning back then that they do now.
Oh, these guys,
and yet you had more longevity.
Whew, man, you walk in this clubhouse and they got Nautilus stuff in there. They got a room twice as big as this room with all these big machines are in there working on their doing exercise, and we never had any of that kind of stuff. We had an iron ball. We was like that 5-pound ball. Loose.
Bobby, if there's one thing that you could change about your career, would there be anything that you would change about it? 'Cause, I mean, it was a pretty fantastic career,
Nope,
but
I wouldn't change a
wouldn't
thing.
change a
I'd
thing.
do it all over again for the same money too. I never made a lot of money. Most I ever made was $25,000, but I even thought I was overpaid making that much.
No kidding.
I couldn't believe I was making that much money.
tell us about, I asked you about the first game. Tell me about the last game. Do you remember the last game that you played as a major leaguer and what your feeling was because you enjoyed it so much?
Well, I did. I was with them when I was with the Phillies. I relieved in quite a few. Well, I was in 14 games with the Phillies. And I was only there about a month, but and my arm was bothering me quite a bit. But I didn't pitch that bad. And in fact, Mock even sent me a contract to play another year. But I didn't. My arm was really killing me. I was taking cortisone shots, so I said I better get out of it while I'm still alive. I said I better not take any more of it. They didn't want me to take any more. But even when I was in Houston in '62, the doctor down there knew I had been taking shots. He didn't want to give me any more cortisone, so they traded me to Cardinals. I went to the Cardinals, and I got there, and he was waiting. The doctor was waiting with the needle when I got there.
Welcome to St. Louis.
Yeah, he said, "Welcome to St. Louis." So I took quite a few. The last 4 years I played, I took quite a bit of cortisone. But I thought I better get out of it while I'm still in good health. I thought I was in pretty decent health, and it never has bothered me. So I guess it was all right.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for it. I wish we had an hour for this show. This has been fascinating, and I really thank you for taking the time to be on the show. And
thank
Jim,
you.
Thank you for arranging this and for being on the show.
Appreciate
I
it.
really appreciate both of you being here. I have a lot more questions, but we don't have enough time.
Okay, we'll be back again.
And like I said at the beginning of the show, it's a great thrill for me to meet you again after 40 years. Striking
you.
out against you, but it was an honor to strike out against you.
Thank you, Lou.
And thanks very much for tuning in to Poking Around Phoenixville. It's been my pleasure to be the host of the show. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lou Beccaria, and remember, play nice and be kind to each other. So long for now.